We welcome you all to this online class hosted by ASAP. This particular session is on the topic cluster analysis, partitional clustering. It is a topic from module number 5 of the subject data mining and warehousing, included in the curriculum of 8th semester computer science engineering students who are studying under APJ Abdul Kalam Technological University. The session will be handled by Dr. Deepthi PS, who is currently a faculty member with Department of Computer Science and Engineering, LBS Institute of Technology for Women, Thiruvananthapuram. We welcome you, madam, to this session.
Thank you, Harishnan. Hello, students. Welcome back. We have just started this topic in the last session, clustering. So let me take a quick recap. So clustering is an unsupervised machine learning task. So we don't have any class labels. You are given a set of data. You have to partition them into meaningful groups. That is what clustering means. So points belonging to a cluster will be similar to each other, and points that belong to different clusters should be dissimilar. So that is what clustering aims at. So consider the two-dimensional points. You can see these could be the possible clusters. So minimizing the intra-cluster distance, that is difference between points belonging to a cluster, and maximizing distance between different clusters is what clustering aims at. So basically it is an unsupervised task because we don't have any class label. We are given just set of data points and we have to find some hidden structure from these unlabeled data. We have also seen the applications of clustering. We can segment customers based on their characteristics. We can cluster projects that belong to same clusters. Then in processing, we can have image segmentation. Suppose we have numerous images, we can segment them from normal area. So it is used in image processing and also in handwritten character recognition systems. That is, different people write characters in different ways. So you can group them together and identify which character has been. And in web search, it is used to cluster search results. When you search for some information in web, you'll get a lot of search results that can be organized into groups, similar groups. Also clustering documents into topics. Then in biology, you can classify plant and animal kingdom given their features, or maybe into phylum, species and all. The classification or hierarchical organization can be done using clustering. Also genes that have similar functions, that perform similar functions can be categorized using clustering. Another important application is outlier detection. Outlier is nothing but a point that is significantly different from the rest of the data points. So you may have a set of points and maybe 1 or 2 points values will be significantly different from the rest. So these outliers can be detected by using clustering. So outliers are not just noise, they can be part of data itself. They'll be showing abnormal behavior. So such anomalous behavior can be detected and separated out using clustering. So the main application is credit card fraud detection. That is, if a credit card has been stolen, the purchase pattern will be different from the rest of the purchase pattern. So you can analyze that anomaly by using clustering. So that is what outlier detection means. So errors or noises can be there in data due to measurement errors or maybe manual errors and all. But these outliers are part of data that are significantly different from rest of the data points. So those outliers can also be detected using clustering. So these are the applications of clustering. Now let us see the data representation. So first is data matrix or object by variable structure. That is, see, this is a matrix representation. Here each row will be representing an object or an instance, and each of these will be the attributes. So x1 and x12, etc., x1p. So attributes. So each row will be representing an instance, and each of these will be the attribute of a data. So this is a feature vector, and you can represent this using a matrix that is called data matrix or object by variable structure. Here you'll be storing attributes as each element in a data matrix. Another representation is decision matrix or object by object structure. Here will be storing the distance among the data objects. So obviously the diagonal elements will be 0 because distance between an object and itself is 0, and you don't have elements above the diagonal matrix, diagonal element above the diagonal, and below the diagonal you will have entries that will be representing the dissimilarity between objects. So D21 means distance between object 2 and object 1. Similarly, you can store the distance or dissimilarity between data objects in a matrix. This is called dissimilarity matrix or object by object structure. So these are representation that are normally used in clustering. Data matrix representation where you will be storing the attributes as such, or the dissimilarity matrix where we'll be storing the distance between objects in the matrix. Now the distance measures that we use in clustering are maybe Euclidean distance, Manhattan distance, and Chebyshev distance. So Euclidean distance is square root of xi minus yi the whole square. That is, if you have 2 points x1, y1 and x2, distance points will be x1 minus x2 the whole square plus y1 minus y2 the whole square. So if you have an n feature data, take difference between each feature and square them up and take the square root. That is what Euclidean distance means. Manhattan distance is the absolute difference between each of the attributes. So xi minus yi is the and add them together will be the Manhattan distance. Chebyshev distance is maximum of xi minus yi. So if you have a set, whichever attribute difference, that will be the distance of that distance between two data points. So it is a maximum distance among all the attributes, maximum of xi minus yi, absolute value of xi minus yi. So these are the distance measures used in clustering. So in clustering, we don't have label data, so we'll be finding difference or similarity based on these distance measures. Any of these distance measures can be used to find dissimilarity or similarity among data points. Categories of clustering are partitioning methods, hierarchical methods, density-based methods, and grid-based methods. So in all of these, you'll be learning one or two algorithms except the grid-based methods. So in 5th module, you have this partitioning method, 2 algorithms in it, k-means and k-medots. That is what we are going to discuss in today's lecture. So first category is partitioning method. So in partitioning, you are given a set of data, you have to group them into k partitions. So k has to be specified by the user. So given a set of data points, you can group. These k groups should have some set of data points that are similar to each other. So how this works is that initially we'll be creating an starting partition or initial partition, and after this partition, the iteration continues and points will be moving from one cluster to another, and this goes on repeating until it is stabilized. That is, at one point of time, points will not move from one cluster to another, and that will be the final clusters we have. So the criteria of good partitioning is that the points belonging to one cluster should be close to each other, and they should be far apart or dissimilar from other clusters. So this partitioning methods works. So it creates a partition of data points, that is k partition of the given set of data points based on their distance between each other. So the algorithms in partitioning methods are k-means and k-medots. So this is how partitioning method creates clusters. We'll have here, if we consider, we have two features, feature 1 and feature 2, that is x and y coordinates. We have two-dimensional set of, so these are the 3 partitions. Here I have considered k equal to 3. So you got a 3 set of data points, that is 3 partitions. This is how partition algorithms clusters data points. Now moving on to k-means algorithm. K-means is the k is the input that partitions that are to be formed that should be given as input by the user. And here the idea is that you have to use means objects belonging to a cluster in order to group them based on centroid. A centroid is nothing but the mean value of objects belonging to a cluster. Okay, so suppose here you see centroid. That centroid represents the cluster. So centroid is a center point of the cluster, and points are assigned to cluster based on distance to this centroid. Okay, so a centroid can be mean or medoid. Now in k-means we are using mean as the centroid. So mean value or the average value of data points belonging to a cluster is the mean of that cluster. That will be the cluster center. We have to measure distance of each data point to the mean, and based on this distance calculation, a partition will be created, and this partition will be improved as and when the algorithm proceeds, and at one stage this partition will get stable and points will not move from one cluster to another, and at that point we'll have the final clusters. So this is the idea behind k-means algorithm. So k is the number of partitions that we are going to create. So this should be specified by the user. So whatever input user gives, the data points will be divided into that many number of clusters. So it is a user defined parameter, and this works based on mean value of objects belonging to a cluster. Calculating the distance between a point and a cluster center, we use Euclidean distance that I have defined earlier. And the quality of cluster, we have formed the cluster. After the algorithm terminates, we have to measure the quality of cluster. So the quality of cluster is measured by within cluster variation. That is, the distance among points belonging to a cluster is called within cluster variation, and it is the sum of error between all objects in a particular cluster Ci. Okay, so that means if we have two clusters, so consider one cluster, calculate the distance of all points to the centroid of that cluster and add them together. Similarly, take the second cluster, calculate the distance of all points in that cluster from the centroid and add them together. So similarly, you can add the distance of each point belonging to a cluster and add them together. That will be the sum of squared error. So this is used to measure the quality of a cluster. So this means that the points belonging to a cluster should be similar to each other. That is, they should be close to the centroid or the center point. So when you calculate distance of each point to the center, this should be the value should be minimum, and when you add them up, the whole value should be minimized. So this is what within cluster variation means. So take it and find the distance among the points and the centroid and add them together. That will give the sum of squared error or the within cluster variation. So this is used to measure the quality of a cluster. And again, the distance is the Euclidean distance. That is, if 2 points x1 x2 y2, Euclidean distance will be square root of x1 minus x2 the whole square plus y1 minus y2 the whole square. Now the algorithm is, so k is the input that you should provide the clusters, and d is the data set. That is the n feature length data objects you will have. You will have n. Each object will be having some set of attributes, and k is the number of clusters that is to be specified by the user. So k-means works by starting with an initial set of centroids. That is, k objects will be chosen as initial centroids. This will be chosen at random, and these are the initial cluster centroids. Now calculate distance of each point to this cluster centroid, to each of these cluster centroid, and assign each object to closest centroid. Suppose we have 3 clusters, we are giving 3 as the number of clusters. So calculate the distance of each of the data point from each of these cluster centroids. and whichever gives the minimum distance, the point will be assigned to that cluster centroid. So this goes on repeating, and once you have an initial, after the initializing the initial cluster centers, you'll have a partition. So each cluster will have some set of points. After this, you have to calculate the mean of the data values belonging to a cluster. So now this centroid will be updated by new data means. New centroid, that will be the objects belonging to a cluster. So once you have new means, you have to every data point from the new mean and this, and again when you calculate distance to the, some points will move from one cluster to another, so you will have a different partition, and this process keeps on continuing until at some point of time objects will not move from one cluster to another and you will get the final clusters. So this is what the algorithm works like. Literally choose initial centroids, assign each cluster to which object is sorry. Then update the cluster means, that is calculate mean value of object to each cluster, and again reassign the object from one cluster by measuring the distance between the object and the new cluster centroid. So keep repeating this until the clusters get stabilized. So this works by iteratively reassigning points to clusters. That is, in each iteration, we will be calculating distance of data point from the centroid, and we'll be reassigning the centroids. So this is why it is called iterative relocation. That is, we'll be relocating points over iterations, and the points keep on changing from one cluster to another as the algorithm proceeds. To see an example, so consider these set of points. We can see visually, you can identify 5 clusters. So consider this is the input. You are given some set of points, and assume I am choosing 5. That is the number of clusters as 5, and I am initializing some centroids. That is, I am picking some points at random. These red dots are the data points that I am choosing as initial centroids. So this I am choosing it as random. There is no particular criteria. So I haven't chosen all of these clusters. I have chosen one from this one, 1 point here, and 3 points from this cluster. So initially, this is the first step. Initially pick any 5 points as initial centroids. So this is the first step. Now with this, you will get a partition like this. So these points will be close to this red point. This point, you'll get a partition like this. Likewise, you'll have an initial partition. So this is formed by calculating the distance of each of the points in this cluster to the centroid that is shown in the red dot. So this is the initial partition you'll get. So after this step, calculate the mean of the points belonging to this cluster. That is the average of attributes of all data points belonging to this cluster, and calculate the new mean. Similarly, calculate the mean of these data points and form a new mean. So we'll have a new means after the first step. Calculate the mean value of all the partitions, and the centroid you'll get new centroid. So this is new centroid I have got. So these green dots are the new centroid that are found by calculating the average of data points. Okay. So now the means are updated. Now you have to again calculate the distance of each data point to this new centroid. Perform this, you will get a different partition. So after you get a different, again calculate the mean of the data points belonging to each cluster and new centroid. And this process keeps on repeating until you'll get a partition, final partition like this. This will be the final partition. After this point, when you calculate the mean of the points belonging to a cluster, the mean will be the same, will not have a different mean. So all means will be the same. That means the points will not move from one cluster to another. Here, the initial partition was this. The centroid moved to this centroid, and the partition will be different. And at one stage, you will have a partition like this, after which the centroid will not change and the points will not move. So these are the final set of clusters that you have when the algorithm terminates. So this is how k-means works. Now, see a numerical example, a simple example. I have considered just 4 points, two-dimensional points, 1, 1, 2, 1, 4, 3, 5, 4. These are the points. This would be the obvious cluster that you will be getting. So we'll see how you get these clusters. These are the data points. I'm assuming k equal to 2, that is the number of clusters is 2. And I'm picking initial centroids at random. So cluster 1 centroid will be, C1 will be 1, 1, C2 is 2, 1. So you can choose any centroid as any set of points as initial centroids. Here I am choosing the first 2 points as initial centroids. So once you have initial centroids, you have to measure the distance of each data point from this centroid. So the remaining points are, we have only 2 points, 4, 3 and 5, 4. So first we will be calculating distance of 4, 3 from 1, 1. So distance of 4, 3 from 1, 1 will be square root of 4 minus 1 the whole square plus 3 minus 1 the whole square. That is 4 is the x-coordinate and 1 is the x-coordinate of the centroid. So 4 minus 1 the whole square plus 3 minus 1 the whole square. Add them and take the square root. You will get the value like this. Now, so this is the distance of 4, 3, first centroid 1, 1. Now calculate distance of 4, 3 from second centroid, that is 2, 1. 4 minus 2 the whole square plus 3 minus 1 the whole square will get the value as 2.83. So this means, so here you got the lesser value in the second, so from the second centroid, that is 2.83. This means that 4, 3 is close to 2, 1 than 1, 1. So we'll be assigning 4, 3 to second cluster, that is the cluster with centroid 2, 1. So after this step, cluster 1 will have just 1 point, that is 1, 1. Cluster 2 will have the centroid 2, 1. And 4, 3, we have calculated distance. So we got minimum distance. And so the point 4, 3 will be assigned to cluster 2. Regarding the first point 4, 3. So we have calculated distance of 4, 3 from both centroid 1 and centroid 2. And it is found to be close to centroid 2. So we are assigning it to cluster 2. Now calculate distance of 5, 4 from these two centroids. So distance of 5, 4 from 1, 1 will be 5. And from 2, 1 will be, it is 4.24. So again, 5, 4 is close to 2, 1. Even without calculating, it is obvious, right? So 5, 4 is close to 2, 1 than 1, 1. So 5, 4 will also be assigned to the second cluster. So at the end of this iteration, we have calculated distance of these two data points from these two centroids, and we got a partition like this. That is, cluster 1 will have just 1 point, that is the centroid itself, and cluster 2 will have the point 2, 1, which is the centroid, and the other 2 points we have calculated distance, and we found that distance is lower to the centroid. So 4, 3 and 5, 4 get assigned to the second centroid. So this is the first partition that we get at the in the iteration 1. So at this point, we have to calculate new centroids. So new centroid in cluster 1, we have, so the centroid will not change. It is retained as such. In cluster 2, we have 3 points. So we have to calculate the mean of these points and form the new centroid. So the mean of these values will be add the x values together and take the average. So 2 plus 4 plus 5 by 3 is the x coordinate, and 1 plus 3 plus 4 by 3 is the y coordinate. So you'll get the value like this, 3.66 and 2.66. So this is the new centroid you get at the end of iteration 1. Okay. So now you have, so you started with these centroids 1, 1 and 2, 1. You got an initial partition with cluster 1 having just 1 point and cluster 2 having the remaining 3 points. And so you have calculated the new centroids, that is the mean value of objects belonging to each cluster, and found centroids like this. Now in the second iteration, you have to repeat this process. That is, you have to, now you have different centroids. So you have to calculate the distance of all points from these centroids. So first calculate distance of 2, 1 from 1, 1. So except this 1, 1, you have to calculate the distance of all points to these centroids. So distance of 2, 1 from 1, 1 will be, calculate the distance, you get 1, and distance of 2, 1 from 2 point, the new centroid 3.66 and 2.66 will be 2.34. So now 2, 1 is close to 1, 1 than this point. So cluster 1 will have 1, 1 and 2, 1. That is, the point 2, 1 will be assigned to the first cluster. Now take the second point 4, 3, calculate the distance, and you'll get the distance like this, 0.48 and 1.89. So the cluster 2 will have 4.3 and 5.4. 4, 3 and 5, 4. Now, so see this, I haven't calculated the distance of 4, 3 from 1, 1, because 4, 3 from 1, 1 we have calculated here already. So that's why I calculated here. And the distance was, distance of 4, 3 from 1, 1 is 3.61. Here, a distance of 4, 3 from 3.66 and 2.66 is 0.48. Even without calculating, you can, 4, 3 is close to 3.66 and 2.66 than 1, 1. So that is why I didn't calculate, write this step here. So 4, 3 is close to the second centroid. Also, 5, 4 is also close to the second centroid. Now the cluster 2 will have the points 4, 3 and 5, 4. Okay. So the we have calculated distance of all points except 1, 1, because 1, 1 is already a centroid. We have calculated distance of 2, 1, 4, 3 and 5, 4 from the centroids 1, 1 and 3.66, 2.66, and we'll get a partition like this. Cluster 1 will have 1, 1, 2, 1. Cluster 2 will have 4, 3 and 5, 4. Now calculate the new centroids, that is average of the points belonging to the cluster. So average cluster 1 has 2 points. So 1 plus 2 by 2 and 1 plus 1 by 2. That is 1.5 and 1 will be the cluster centroid 1. And of the cluster 2 will be 4 plus 5 by 2 and 3 plus 4 by 2. That is 4.5 and 3.5. Now we have updated cluster centroids. Again, calculate the distance of all points from these centroids. Now you can see that 1.5 and 1 is the cluster 1 and this is the 2. I have not calculated the distance again. You can find that 1, 1 goes to this cluster, 2, 1 also goes to this cluster, 4, 3 goes to this cluster, and 5, 4 also goes to this cluster. So you'll get partition like this, 1, 1 and 2, 1 in this cluster, C1, and 4, 3 and 5, 4 in cluster. So when you see this, you can, this is the iteration 3. So you can find that the clusters are the same as in the previous iteration. So iteration 2, we got the same partition. That is the partition we get in iteration 3 also. So the class same. So that means we don't have to calculate the mean again. The mean will be the same. So these are the final centroids 1.51 and 4.5 and 4.5 comma 3.5, and these are the clusters. So because did not change, we are not going to calculate the centroids again and calculate this. So at this point, the algorithm terminates. So we got the final clusters and the final centroids are 1.51 and 4.5. So this is how k-means work. So we started with this set of points, 2 centroids at random, and calculated distance of each point from this centroid. We got an initial partition, calculate this new centroid. That is what happens in iteration 1. And in iteration 2, we have calculated distance of each point from the new centroids and assigned the points. So we got a different partition like this. In iteration 3, we got centroids and we got new centroids in iteration 2. So with that, we calculated again the distance of every point, and we found that the clusters do not change. So at this point, the algorithm terminates. That is, the clusters are stabilized. So this is the final output we get. Now we have to measure the quality of cluster. That is, how similar the points belonging to a cluster are. So for that, we have to calculate the within cluster variation. So these are the centroids we have at the end of the algorithm. Is this, and cluster 1 we have these 2 points, and in cluster 2 we have these 2 points. So the sum of squared error will be take the difference of points belonging to cluster 1 from the centroid and add them together. So in cluster 1 we have 1 1 and 2 1. So take the distance of points belonging to the cluster to its centroid. So 1 minus 1.5 the whole square plus 1 minus 1 the whole square. This is regarding first point. And second point, 2 minus 1.5 the whole square plus 1 minus 1 the whole square. So these points to the centroid 2. Add them all together, we get the value as 1.5. So if you start with a different cluster, so because only considered only 4 points, even if you consider some other values as initial centroids, you may get a similar partition, but there can be slight change in the within cluster variation. So this is how you measure the quality of cluster. So this error value should be minimized. So now some points about k-means. So k-means works by initially picking random centroids. So the result depends on the initial centroids. When you pick, when you have large data set and you pick initial centroids differently, you'll get different partitions. So to get good results, you have to repeat the algorithm by considering different initial centroids and consider the results and take best result out of them. That is how the algorithm works. So we have to specify k as input, the number of clusters as input, and the centroids are picked at random, so the results will be differing in each run. And the time complexity of the k-means algorithm is in order of nkt, where n is the number of instances or data points, k is the number of clusters, and k is the number of iterations. Again, iterations keeps on differing, so the number of iterations will be at the point when you stop the clustering. That is, at some point the points will not move from one point to another. So that is the number of iterations. So this is the complexity of this algorithm. Also, the algorithm is not guaranteed to give you an optimal solution. So as it begins with initial centroids, the result wholly depends on the initial centroids. As such, it is not guaranteed to converge at a global optimal solution. It often terminates at local optimal solution. So that is the drawback of k-means algorithm. You have to give the number of clusters as input to the algorithm. So I think I'll break at this point. If you have any questions.
Yes, ma'am, we have got a few questions here.
Okay.
So the first question is, how do you plot class label attributes as points x, y?
Actually, class labels, we don't go for clustering when you have class labels. If you have class labels, you can go for classification, not for clustering. So in clustering, we have set of data points. You don't have any class labels. So there is no point in taking the attribute value of class labels. If your data is labeled, it is better that you can go for classification than clustering. So clustering, you have to go for clustering only when you don't have class labels. So you have to find hidden patterns. That is why you're going for clustering. So it is a different task when you have labeled data.
Okay, ma'am. The second question is related to the first one, and the second question is how do you find the distance between these points?
Yeah, distance is what I have the Euclidean distance. There are different distance measures. So in k-means we are using Euclidean distance. So consider a point x1, y1, x2, y2. So Euclidean distance will be x1 minus x2 the whole square plus y1 minus y2 the whole square and the square root of that. Manhattan distance is absolute difference. That is x1 minus x2 plus y1 minus y2. And that in k-means we are using Euclidean distance. That is what I have discussed here. Here, consider these are the centroids. So to find the distance of 4, 3 from 1, 1, you have to take the distance of x coordinate and y coordinate and add them. So 4 minus 1 the whole square plus 3 minus 1 the whole square. So take the difference of each of square them and take the square root. That is what Euclidean distance means.
Okay, ma'am. Shall we move on to the next question?
Okay.
Okay, the next question is after the initial partition, how do you choose the next centroid point for the second partition?
Well, here we have after the initial partition, in the iteration we have in cluster 1 there is just 1.11. In cluster 2 we have 3 points. So the C1 we don't have to change because there is just 1 point. So C1 is the same. For calculating the centroid of second cluster, you have to take the mean. That is why it is called k-means algorithm. The average of the points. So the x coordinates average and the y coordinates average. So cluster 2 has points 2, 1, 4, 3 and 5, 4. So 2 plus 5 by 3 because you have 3 points. Nothing but the average. And the y coordinate is 1, 3 and 4. So 1 plus 3 plus 4 by 3. So this is the new centroid. C1 there is no change because there is only 1 point. C2 we have 3 points. Take the average of these points. And this is the centroid 2.
Okay, ma'am. The next question is how to determine the terminating condition?
Well, that is what discussed here with this set of points with this small example. Initial partition we have these centroids. The new centroids are calculated by getting the average. In second iteration, we have again calculated distance of each point from the new centroids and we got a partition like this. So now again calculate the new centroids. So see this in second iteration, we have 2 points in cluster 1. In the previous iteration, we had only 1 point. In the second iteration, we have 2 points in cluster 1 and 2 points in cluster 2. So we have to take the average of these 2 points as the new centroid of cluster 1 and the average of these 2 points as mean of second cluster. So the new centroids are 1.51 and 4.5, 3.5. Now again calculate the distance of all points. We have 4 points here, 1, 1, 2, 1, 4, 3, 5, 4. So calculate distance of all points to these 2 points. So I have skipped the distance calculation because you can see from this example itself, 1, 1 is close to 1.51, then 4.5, 3.5. So 1, 1 goes to this cluster. Also 2, 1 is close to this point. So 1, 1 and 2, 1 will form the cluster 1. And 4, 3 and 5, 4 are close to this point. So 4, 3 and 5, 4 will be going to the second cluster. So this is iteration 3. Now check the iteration 2. In iteration 2 also we got the same partition. Cluster 1 contains 1.11 and 2, 1. Cluster 2 has 4, 3 and 5, 4. So in third iteration also we got the same set of points. That means see, if you take the average, you are going to get the same partition only. So again, these the points will not move from one cluster to another. That is where we stop the iteration. We'll stop the iteration when clusters will have same data points as in the previous iteration. So in iteration 2, we had a partition like this. In iteration 3 also we got the same points. So at this point you can terminate. Clear now?
Okay, ma'am. Hope you have answered the next
questions?
question too. Yes, actually the next question was approximately how many iterations have to be performed. So I guess you have already answered that too.
Yeah.
And,
The
then,
number of iterations, let me add something also. You cannot predetermine the number of iterations. It depends on the initial centroids and the data set. So for each data set, the number of iterations keep on changing, and it keep on changing with the initial centroids also. You may not get converged or the final partition using different centroids and say get the same results. The iterations and clusters that you get will be different if you have different centroids.
okay, ma'am. The next question is, what is local and global optima?
Okay, so when you have large number of data points, you'll have a partition. You'll be picking some initial centroids, calculating a distance, right? Distance, and you'll find initial, and you keep on iterating, and at the end you will have a solution. So the solution, you'll calculate the distance, and within squared error criterion you will get a minimum value. But that need not be a solution, a global optimal solution. That is, you can have a better solution even by considering another set of solutions. So that is what end. The centroids or the distance will not be minimized always. So you'll not get the global optimal solution. It will be local optimal in the sense that with whatever you have considered as initial centroids, it is an optimal solution, but it is not exactly the minimal solution that attain if you consider another set of centroids.
Okay, ma'am. We have one more question. The question is, why maximum number of iterations are required for k-means method?
So maximum number of iterations at some point, even k-means will terminate at some condition, right? That is, the cluster centroids will get stabilized and points will move from one point to another. In case the point will not converge with the number of iterations. Otherwise, the algorithm will keep on running infinitely and it will be computationally expensive. So in rare cases, you can choose maximum iterations and forcefully stop the iterations. Otherwise, the algorithm can repeat and stabilize itself by calculating means, and means will get stabilized and you'll get the cluster points stable, and it will not move from one cluster to another. So if this is not possible, you can give my maximum iterations so that you can get a partition even without finalizing the iterations. Normally, k-means works by considering not considering the maximum iteration, but by considering the convergence. That is, once you get the clusters stabilized, you will stop the algorithm.
Okay, ma'am. We have one more question. Should we answer it now or shall we move on with the lecture, ma'am?
Okay, I'll answer it also.
Okay, then what is the distance between what if the distance between two cluster centroids is less than a predefined threshold?
Distance between two cluster centroids.
Yes, is less than.
We are not considering, so that need not be considered. The distance between two centroids, if it is below a threshold, that means that they are close to each other. So you may have a very low partition that the points will be very close to each other. You can say that they are two clusters, but they are not very different from each other. Maybe you can merge them and form a new cluster. So we won't be looking for the threshold value when you consider clustering. You'll be choosing the number of clusters. User has to decide on the number of clusters. So the data points will be divided into that many clusters. So if it is below a threshold, that means the points are close to each other, so there is no point in dividing them further.
Okay, ma'am. We have no more questions at this point. Also, please note that we have another 15 to 20 minutes max in hand before ending the session, ma'am.
Okay, okay.
Okay,
15 minutes, right?
Yes, ma'am. Maximum
Okay,
15 to 20 minutes. That's it, ma'am.
Okay, can I have all 10 minutes for presentation and 5 minutes for question, right? Or I can continue till 15 minutes?
Okay, ma'am. You can continue for 15 minutes, and then additional 5 minutes we can assign for final question and
Okay,
answer.
okay, okay, okay.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
So another drawback of k-means is that if you have data points that are substantially different from the rest of the data points, it will be affecting the quality of the cluster. Okay, so consider data points like this 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, 10, 25. So you can notice that 1, 2, 3. So these are just points, one-dimensional points. So 1, 2, 3 are close to each other. Similarly, 8, 9, 10 are close to each other. So obviously, want a cluster result like this 1, 2, 3 in one cluster, 8, 9, 10 in another cluster, and 25 should be excluded because 25 is significantly larger value than the rest of the data points. So it should be considered as an outlier. So this is what an outlier means, a data point that is significantly different from the rest of the data points. Okay. So consider I'm running k-means algorithm on this set of data points. So I'm applying k-means by setting k equal to 2. So I'll suppose I'm getting the partition like this 1, 2, 3 in one cluster, 8, 9, 10, 25 in another cluster. So the mean of these cluster centroids will be 2, and that is 1 plus 2 plus 3 by 3, that is 6 by 3 will be 2, and add these points together by 4, you'll get the mean like this 13. Okay, so now take the squared error, that is the data points, the distance of points from one cluster 1 to mean 2, and distance of data points in this cluster to mean 13. So 1 minus 2 the whole square plus 2 minus 2 the whole square plus 8 minus 13 the whole square plus 9 and so on. So you'll get a value that like this 196. So this is a sum of squared error if you have a partition like this. Now consider another partition 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, 10, 25. Okay. So if you got result like this and mean like this 3.5, the mean of these values will be 3.5 and mean of these values will be 14.67. Again calculate the squared error of these points to these means. So you'll get a value like this. Now you can see that with this partition you got a lesser squared error criterion. Okay. So squared error criteria is what we aim to minimize. So within clusters, squared sum is what you are going to minimize. So you got a minimum value with this partition. So this means that this you may come to a conclusion that this is a better partition by looking into the within squared error criteria. But if you see this 1, 2, 3, 8 and 9, 10, 25 are the clusters you get, but you can see that 8, 9, 10 are close to each other. So 8 should obviously go to this cluster, right? So this would be cluster. But since you got the squared error criteria better in the second, you will believe that this is a good clustering result. But it's not the case in reality. So this is what happens when you have a data point that is significantly different from the rest of the data points. So here the value 8 got assigned to the cluster 1, or it has been pulled to cluster 1 due to the presence of the large value 25. Okay. Also, the cluster centroid of second cluster, that is 6, 7, is substantially far from all the points. It is different from all the points. So this is called sensitivity to outliers. That is, the partitioning will be sensitive to the outlier point. That is, the point here is 25. So this is a phenomena that happens in k-means algorithm. Objects having extremely large value will be the distribution of data. Here, the point 8 got pulled in cluster due to the presence of 25. So at each point we are calculating the mean. So this forces some point that should belong to one cluster to be pulled on to another cluster. So we'll get some undesirable result. So this is the drawback of K-means algorithm, that is, it is sensitive to outliers. So because of this problem, there is an algorithm called K-Meadows algorithm. So in K-Meadows algorithm, instead of taking the mean value as a cluster centroid, we'll be picking actual object to represent the clusters. So each object, each cluster will have a representative object. So that will be picked as cluster centroid instead of considering the centroid. And here we'll be considering absolute error criteria rather than within cluster variation. That is, the absolute distance of data points to the centroid will be calculated. So centroid is nothing but an actual object. So in each iteration, in K-means, we will be calculating the mean of the data points and finding the new centroid. But here, we will be picking actual data object itself and taking it as a new centroid. So the distance we are considering here is the absolute distance, that is the Manhattan distance, xi minus yi. So a medoid is nothing but an actual object. So the algorithm works similar to that of K-means itself, but the difference is that we will not be calculating the mean value. So initialize the centroid. So this step is the same. Initially, we can pick a set of points as centroids and replace one centroid at a time by another object rather than calculating the mean. Okay. So there are four possibilities we have when we reassign points. So consider these are the points. OI and OJ are the cells. So I'll say the notations here. So the dot represents plus represents centroids, and the solid line represents cluster assignment before swapping, and the dotted dashed line represents cluster assignment after swapping. Okay. So consider these are the points. So OI and OJ are the centroids. P is the data point. Okay. So first we'll calculate. So these are the centroids. We calculate distance, and P will be assigned to cluster centroid OJ. Okay. Now in second iteration, we have to pick a data point at random. Another data point at random. I'm choosing O random, and calculate distance of P from this O random. So now we can find that P is close to OI than O random. So P will be reassigned to OI. Okay, so this is first case. We have assigned P to OJ in first and picked another centroid. So this is just another point. We found that the distance is minimum to this OI than O random. So we reassign this. This is first case. In second case, we have assigned, the point is here, point P is here, P is assigned to OJ, and we have picked another point O random. So we found that P is closer to O random than OJ. So we reassign P to O random. This is second case. The third case is point P is here. We assigned it to OI. OI and OI. We assigned it to OI. And next we picked another point O random. So it is far away from O random than to OI. So we will not reassign it. There is no change. P gets assigned to OI itself. There is no change. This is the third case. And the final case is that P is initially assigned to OI, and we picked another OI and OJ are the initial centroids. P is initially assigned to OI, and we picked a point O random. We found that P is closer to O random than OI. So P gets reassigned to O random. This is the fourth case. So these are the four possibilities that arise when we replace one centroid by another object. So the difference from K-means here is that at each iteration, we'll be picking actual data objects and calculating distance of each point from the new data object, and we keep on reassigning. Either we keep on reassigning, or if distance is greater, we'll keep the cluster as such. So these are the four possibilities that can arise. So based on these cases, the algorithm called PAM, that is partitioning around Meadol's. This is called this is the K-Meadol's algorithm. The short form is PAM, partitioning around around Meadol's. We'll be picking K initial representative as initial centroids, the same step as that in K means, and assign the objects that are close to these objects and get an initial partition. After the initial partition, pick another random object and calculate the distance of the remaining points to the new random object. If the distance is distance of swapping the representative object and earlier object is 0, we'll swap the previous centroid with O random and form a new set of representative objects. So here, after the initial centroids, we'll be replacing one centroid at a time with a new object and calculate the distance of each object from the new centroid. If you get a better result, you can go on with centroid or the new representative object that you have chosen. Otherwise, you will continue with the previous centroid. In the next step also, you will pick another random object and keep on repeating this process until there is no change in the clustering. So these steps are the same as in that in K-means algorithm, except that instead of calculating the mean value, we'll be picking actual objects. So the actual objects are called Meadoids because they will be representative of the or the central point of a cluster. So actual points are chosen as centroid rather than choosing the mean value. So we'll discuss the next class because it will take time. Do we have any questions?
No, ma'am. At this point, we don't have any questions. You can continue, ma'am, for another 5 minutes.
Okay. So we'll see an example. The same example that I've considered in case of K-means. These are the set of points. So in this algorithm, we are considering the Manhattan distance. So the initial centroids are chosen at random 1, 1 and 2, 1. So this distance of 4, 3 from 1, 1 will be 4 minus 1 plus 3 minus 1. That is the absolute difference. Take the absolute difference of each coordinate and add them together. So calculate distance of 4, 3 from 1, 1 and 2, 1. So these are the values that we get. So we can find that 4 to 2, 1. Also 5, 4 we get minimum value from 2. 4 also gets close to, gets assigned to cluster 2. So these are the initial partitions we get. Cluster 1 will have 1 point and cluster 2 will have the remaining set of points. So now calculate the total cost of getting this cluster partition. Total cost will be distance of 4, 3 from 1, 1 is 4. The minimum value is 4. And 5, 4 from 2, 1 is 6. So this is the cost of the total cost error that we calculate. So 4 plus 6, that is 10. Now, non-Meadoid object at random. That is, we have the Meadoids here now, 1, 1 and 2, 1. Pick another object and replace this centroid. So I am choosing another object, that is I am considering here 4, 3. And I am replacing 2, 1 with 4, 3. So now the new centroids are 1, 1 and 4, 3. So this is what happens in the first iteration. Take initial centroids, calculate distance, the absolute distance between the point and the centroid, and take the clusters to closest Meadoids and calculate the total cost. Pick another object at random and replace one of the centroids. So I have replaced 2, 1 with 4, 3. This again calculate the distance. So here you can see that this 2, 1 is close to 1, 1 and 5, 4 is close to 4, 3. So the total cost will be 1 plus 2, that is 3. Now cost of, we have to find the cost of swapping the Meadoid, that is current cost minus previous cost. So now in this step you got the cost like this, that is the value is 3. The previous step the cost was 10. So obviously you can know that this is a better Meadoid. So 3 minus 10 you got a negative. At this point you can go on with the new Meadoid, that is you have replaced 2, 1 with 4, 3 and you got a better cost. while partitioning. So 4, 1 and 4, 3 can be the next centroids. So cluster 2 will have now 1, 1 and 2, 1 in cluster 1 and 4, 3 and 5, 4 in cluster 2. That is what you got from here. 2, 1 is close to 1, 1 and 5, 4 is close to 4, 3. So in iteration 2, you will get a partition like this. So this is the partition you got by 1, 1 and 4, 3 as centroids. Now again choose a non-metered object at random 5, 4. So I am replacing 4, 3 by 5, 4. Calculate the distance. Get values like this. The total cost will be 1 plus 2. That is 3. Now cost of swapping metered is previous cost minus current cost minus previous cost. 3 minus 3, that is 0. So you can see that the previous cost and current cost are the same. That means you cannot improve further. You'll get a partition in the previous iteration itself. So you don't have to swap the metered. So at this point, you can stop the iteration. Even if you proceed, you'll get the partition like this one. So this is how the algorithm works. And these are the final centroids you have 1, 1 and 4, 3. And these are the points that we have. These are the clusters we get. So we started with 2 centroids 1, 1, 2, 1. We replaced 2, 1 with 4, 3 and got a partition like this. Again, we replaced 4, 3 by 5, 4. And at that point, we found that the cost remains the same. The total cost of forming the metered, forming this cluster is the same. So we are not going to swap that. So 1, 1 and 4, 3 will remain the cluster centroids. And these will be the partition that we get at the end. So this is how k-meteoids work. We are not finding mean value. We are picking another object at random and replacing one of the centroid and recalculating distance and reassigning the points. And at one point, the cost will you cannot improve the cost further, and that is where you stop the algorithm. Compare this k-meteoids with k-means. You can find that k-meteoids is more robust than k-means in case of outliers. That is, if you have large significant values that are outliers or noise, k-meteoids performs better. And the complexity of k-meteoids algorithm is order of k into n minus k the whole square. So this is computationally expensive than k-means. The complexity of k-means is nkt. N is the number of points, k is the iterations, and k is the clusters, and t is the iterations. So here it is n minus k the whole square. So for large value of n and k, this is very much costly than k-means algorithm. Also, we have to specify k, the number of clusters as input in both the algorithms. And there is chance that you get a local optimal solution. So at one set of centroids, you have an optimal solution, which need not be the optimal solution that you get at when you pick another set of points. So both doesn't guarantee you global optimal solution. That is a similarity, and you have to specify the number of clusters as input to the algorithm in both cases. And this is the k-meteoids performs better than k-means in presence of outliers. So outliers is what talked about in the beginning of this k-meteoids. So this here 25 is an outlier. So 25 forced 8 to be pulled into the first cluster in case of k-means, but this will not happen when you have meteoids, k-meteoids algorithm. So it is less sensitive to outlier k-meteoids. So, but the property is that whatever you have of points, k-means and k-meteoids gets partitions every points into so many clusters. So every point will be pulled into some or the other cluster. So you'll have a set of clusters at the end. That is how partition algorithm works. Or discard layers even in case of k-meteoids, but it doesn't affect the distribution of data as it does in case of k-means. In k-means, distribution of data will be affected by the presence of outliers, but this can be avoided in case of k-meteoids algorithm. About partitional clustering, k-means and meteoids.
Okay, ma'am, we have 1 or 2 minutes more. So there is one question which we can answer.
Okay.
That is, what is added to get total cost?
Total cost. Okay. Total cost is, see, when you have first iteration, one has just 1.11, cluster 2 has these 3 points. Okay. So we assigned, these are the points that we are going to assign to any of these clusters. So 4, 3 and 5, 4. 4, 3, when we calculate distance from 1, 1 and 2, 1, we got minimum distance as 4. That is why we assigned it to cluster 2. So this cost is the cost of assigning 4, 3 to the second centroid. So that is the 4 here. And distance of 5, 4 will be minimum to this second centroid, that is 2, 1. So when you calculate distance of 5, 4 from 1, 1 and 2, 1, you got lesser value in this case. So this is the cost of assigning 5, 4 to 2, 1. So this is what you add together, this 4 and 6. 4 plus 6 is 10. Hope it is clear now.
Okay, ma'am. We don't have any more questions. We have answered all the questions. So I hope we can end the session. Before that, ma'am, one final thing is, do you have any suggestions from the exam point of view, the students or attendees?
Okay. So this is the last topic in fifth module. K means cluster analysis and partition clustering. This is the second part of the fifth module. We had discussed association rule mining. In that, we had two algorithms, a priori and FP growth. So those algorithms, normally problems are asked every time. So you have to work on problems. Also in K-means and K-medots, problems may be asked. You'll be given a set of points and you'll be asked to work out on this. So you have to definitely learn this, learn how this works and the distance calculation and all. So if you understand a simple one, you'll be able to do that. You won't get so large data and you won't be asked to cluster large data set and all. You'll have a numerical question where you'll have just 5 or 6 points and you have to, maybe you have to find till 1 or 2 iterations. You'll get questions like that. Also theory can be asked, explain this algorithm. So that is what you can expect from these points. And the distance measures, the categories of clustering. So categories of clustering, we have started with just one partition clustering. In that we have K-means and K-medots. The remaining are in sixth module. So in fifth module, only these much portions. The clustering basics, the distance measures, then the categories and the working and algorithm of these two uh, methods, that is K-means and K-medots. So you can expect small problems. That is, you won't get, if you are given a last 10 or 15 data points, it will require so much of computation. So you won't get such large data and all. Maybe you'll have 6 or 7 points and you have to find till 2 or 3 iterations. Maybe you'll be given with initial centroids, you can work with that. Type of questions can be expected.
Okay, ma'am. So, ma'am, we will wind up the session. So,
Okay.
the session was very informative, and I hope the students are clear with the concepts related to cluster analysis and partitional clustering.